Welcome, folks, to another edition of SMR Simple Monday Reflections. Uh, Today, I'm going to be speaking about fear and pushing past that fear. Now, granted, fear is a big subject. There's so much to do with fear, many different types of fears, but I'm going to just touch on three fears that I feel stop a lot of us from taking action, even if we don't know it. And also, I'm going to be talking about fear in general and in ways we can push past it. And this can be applied to all different types of fear. Like I said, there's many different types of fears. But let me first start by saying, guys, that fear is normal. It's normal. And the reason why it's normal is because there's an element of risk attached to it. Whenever there's an element of risk, then it means that in some ways there may be you may be afraid to take that action or to make that step because there's a risk there. But the reality of it is that life is risky. You know, from the day we were born to even now and to continue to the day that we're dying, it's going to be an element of risk. It's going to be a scary element to it all. Like, for example, when you first started learning how to walk, it was probably scary. It was probably scary when you had your first day at school. It was scary at that first interview you took. Was you going to get the job or not? What about meeting that first girlfriend or boyfriend? That was scary as well. Are you going to be cool enough? Is he or she going to like me enough? Am I going to be good enough? You know, it's all going to be scary. I like the way Jim Rohn, the famous motivational speaker, said it. He said, I tell you how risky and scary life is. You're not going to make it out alive. And that's true. It's the truth. You're not going to make it out alive. So we've got to embrace these risks and we've got to embrace the fear, so to speak. And then we're going to see what's there for us. Okay? So first thing is fear. It is normal. You know, there's no one out there who can tell me that they haven't been afraid at least one time in their life. No one can. You know, we all have experienced it at some point in our lives. But the second thing to also realize is that it's on the other level. It's on the other side, so to speak, shall I say. It's on the other side of the fear. It's on the other side of that action that you're afraid to take. That's where your next level lies. That's where your growth to that next chapter in your life lies. Is on the other side of that fear. And some people, they never get there because it stops them in their tracks, you know, and then they're afraid to take action and they never know what could have been or what would have been. Whereas other people, you know, they use that as a vessel or whatever and they spur past that fear and then they take themselves to that next level and it's never afraid, they're never afraid of it the next time as much as they was the first time. So always remember, it's on the other side of that fear. That's where your next level lies. And the truth of the matter is that fear is an illusion. It's not real. You know, no matter how real it seems or appears to you, it is not real. And I say that is because it's embedded in the future. You know, you're afraid to take action because you don't know what it's going to entail. But the fact of the matter is that you're not going to know until you take it. So it's in the future. It's not present. It's in the future. And it's the fear that we're building up in ourselves. So it isn't an illusion. It's not real. Anthony Robbins put it perfectly when he calls fear, he uses an acronym. And the fear is false expectations that appear real. That's what fear stands for. False expectations that appear real. You know, putting these false expectations of how you think it should go and should be, but they're not real. And you're magnifying the worst case scenario of what happens if you take that action. But you don't know. It may be even worse than that. It may be better than that. It may be completely different to what you assumed it, but you're not going to know unless you take that action. Okay, so some people take it and then they see what the results have. Other people, you know, they're going to live that life of coulda, shoulda, woulda, but they didn't because they succumbed to the fear. Okay, and it happens for many of us. You know, this is not a judgment call I'm not making here, but I'm saying the reality of it is that fear is like that ugly gorilla that tries to smother you, and it's not real. You've just got to wake up and realize that it's not there. So let me touch now on three fears that I feel that, before I touch that, it's important to know that, you know, guys, fear is a signal. It's telling you to do something, you know, it's a warning signal, you know, and before I go into this warning signal, let me touch on three fears that I feel that are, that stop a lot of people in their tracks, stop them from taking action, stop them from being the best that they can be and fulfilling their dreams. Because we have goals and dreams and they require us to do certain things. And when the going gets tough, or a fear element comes in, that's when we stop, and we never know what could have been or what would have been for us. So the first fear is the real common one that a lot of people are aware of and talk about, is fear of failure. No one wants to be embarrassed. No one wants to look silly. No one wants to to let themselves and others down and feel that I failed. And society is actually built up in this way that we're always geared to the winners. Winner takes first, and first place matters, and you got to win. But second place is never glorified, or third place is never held up. So the society is geared to winning, so no one wants to fail. But if you have that element in your mind, no one wants to fail, then you're never going to take that risk. You're never going to take that action if you think you're going to fail, because no one wants to fail. So that first fear of failure is really prevalent in society. And you see a lot of people, they're afraid to take action because they don't want to fail. Sometimes they've had so many failures in their life, past failures, that who wants to add another one to that list? No one does. And then for others, they've had so many wins that they're afraid to fail. So they live in that comfort zone. They remain in that zone that they know they have control over. They want to go out of that because it might mean them failing. So they don't want to fail, so they don't want to take risks, and they don't want to take action when it comes to certain things. So the fear of failure is the first one. A second fear that is very prevalent among society and a lot of people, and a lot of my clients that I speak to when I coach them, and this is fear of not being enough. Now this is a subtle one, but it's important because it starts from childhood. Every child wants to be loved by their parents and their loved ones. Every child wants that mother or father love. They want that comfort. It's a form of comfort. Everyone wants to be enough. You want your parents to be proud of you, to feel that you're special. Everyone wants to be enough. And then when you get older and you no longer require it from your parents, or you do it but to a different element, you start to get it from your friends and your peers. You want a sense of belonging. You want to belong to a group. You want a sense of acceptance, to be accepted by people. And what that does sometimes is that sometimes you have to leave your company. Sometimes you've got to branch out. Sometimes your company is not making you grow. And sometimes you have to leave certain people to grow, but you're afraid because of what will happen. Will they accept me? Will the rest of my peers, will I be accepted, or will I be ostracized because I'm different now, or I want something different for my life? So fear of failure, fear of not being enough and not being accepted. It keeps people in their comfort zones. It keeps people doing what they know. You tend to find that a lot with people pleasers. They always want to please everyone, pleasing everyone, which is fine to help and be generous, but not at the detriment of your own self. Some people, they please people at the detriment of themselves. And there's also, you find it in the people that can't say no. Yes, yes, yes to everything. Even if it means they're going to suffer, it's yes, yes, yes. But there's a difference between being noble and then being silly, not being noble, not being wise and noble. You've got to be wise with your generosity. You've got to be wise with your kindness. There's no point in me trying to feed the world and then I'm going to be starving to death. It's just common sense. You've got to use that. But this fear of not being enough is really strong in people, and it's a sad thing because everyone does belong. Everyone has someone special in their life and they mean something. Everyone is special first and foremost in the eyes of God. We're all special. We're all of the same value. And then branching down from that, there's other people, and even if they're not in your family or they're not your loved one, there's other people that care for people, that care for humanity and people, and they care for you as well. So this idea of not being enough or not being special, it's a fear element that you have. And it's an illusion. It's one that you've built up for yourself, maybe based on what you haven't had in life, or, the way your life has gone so far. You've based up this idea that I'm not enough, or maybe you've fallen out with some friends when you were younger or something like that. But whatever the case, it's not real. This idea, fear of not breaking through, taking action just because maybe I'll be ostracized or I won't be accepted. It's just an illusion that you've put in there. And the third fear I would like to mention about is a big one, because this is the silent one. This is one that you don't notice, but affects all of us. Well, some of us, well, all of us to a degree. But it's a silent one that people don't, wouldn't be aware of. And this is fear of responsibility. fear of responsibility. And I say this because it's so easy to point the blame, pass the buck, wasn't me, it's them, keep quiet, not respond. So all this is because you're afraid, fear of responsibility. And I say fear of responsibility because just imagine if everything in your life was your fault. If everything in your life you were responsible for. Now people are going to look at me and say, well, I can never be responsible. This person done that to me. That's not my fault. This happened to me. That's not my fault. And you're right, it's not your fault. Responsibility doesn't mean that what took place is your fault. That doesn't mean that. What responsibility means is your ability to respond. Now, you can't control the actions, but you can control your ability to respond. No matter what happens, we can all respond in a certain way and take ownership and responsibility for our response to whatever happens. And that's what I mean by fear of responsibility. Because if you really and I really were responsible for our lives, then no matter what happens, no matter what we've experienced, this is us. This is our making. We've decided the impact that we've allowed it to have on us has created the life that we are living now. Okay? And the reason why, if the life you're living now isn't the way you wanted, it's because you haven't responded consciously. You've either just let the incident take place and let the emotions and the repercussions of it overwhelm you and take over you, or you've just ignored it like it's going to go away and you've allowed it to be. But if you are responsible, that means that you have ability, you're able to respond. And if you consciously respond to what happens, then you will realize that the impact it has on you is very different. The actions you take going forward after that, very different. And the result it has on your life, very different. As if you take responsibility. And it's the fear of responsibility that a lot of people don't take it. Because what does it say if your life the way it is now is all your fault? What does that say about you? What does that say about the potential that you have, or you think you have, or you don't have? What does that say about you as a person? Not pointing the buck and saying it's my parents' fault, or where I grew up is the way I grew up, or I didn't get the right school, I didn't get the first lift off from my parents enough money, or I didn't get, coulda, shoulda, woulda, and that. No. What if you took responsibility and say, I just didn't respond consciously. I didn't use my ability to respond consciously in the way that I could have used this for an advantage, and use this to spur me on to do different things. So they're the three types of fears that I just wanted to highlight on. Fear of failure, fear of not being enough, and fear of responsibility. Now, having said all that, and there was many different types of fears, there's fear of heights, there's fear of this, there's fear of that. There's so many different fears, and we all know that. But one thing we have to understand is that fear is a signal. Fear is a warning signal. It's a warning message. It's telling you something. If you feel an emotion that is high and it drives you, that means it's telling you something. It's a warning. And rather than just ignore it and then go on and keep on going on in life, it's good to adhere to it or stop and listen. Well, something's going on here. You might not know what it is at the moment, but something's going on here. And when it comes to fear, it's an action signal. It's telling you have to take action. And doing nothing is taking action as well. Doing nothing, that's still doing something because you're doing nothing. It's just not going to get you the results that you're seeking. Well, I don't think it will. But fear is telling you you've got to take action. And remember what we said, or what I said earlier on, that it's on the other side of that fear. It's on the other side of that action is where your next level is where your growth is. So once you realize that fear is a signal and is an action signal, that it's telling you to do something, then this is what I believe it's telling you to do. This is the 5 steps that you can take to overcome the fear when it hits you. Overcome the fear and take action so you go to that next level. And the first thing is acknowledge. You have to acknowledge that, oh, hold on, this is a sign for me. You have to acknowledge something's going on here. And then you've got to understand, with the acknowledge, you've got to know, what is it I am really afraid of? Don't start passing the buck and, trying to smooth the edge. Just be honest with yourself. What am I afraid of? What is it I am actually afraid of? Or what do I actually think I'm afraid of? Yeah? What is it I'm afraid of? Once you've acknowledged and you realize and you understand and you know, look, I'm afraid of this, then the next thing you've got to do is you've got to appreciate. You've got to appreciate that it's giving you a chance to go to a next level. It's giving you a chance to grow. It's giving you a chance and an opportunity. This fear is an opportunity now. It's an opportunity for me to never feel this way again and to take my life to that next step. So I've acknowledged what it is, and then I have appreciated the fact that it's given me this opportunity. And then the third thing to do is get curious. And when I say get curious, I mean get curious like a little child. If a little child can't find his way through a Rubik's Cube or something, he's going all around, up, underside. He's going everywhere just to find out, how do I do this? How do I do this? And that's what you've got to do about fear. You've got to start getting curious about fear. Because now you're afraid of what might happen if you take action. So get curious then. Start asking yourself questions. Well, what is the worst that could happen? What would happen if I did do this? What would happen if I done that? And then, okay, if that happened, then what would happen then after that? And then what would happen after that? Just ask yourself questions, more questions, better quality questions, and you get better quality answers. Just asking yourself questions in the future as well, because the fear is in the future. So ask yourself questions in the future. What's the worst case scenario for me? And then flip it on its head. What's the best case scenario for me? You know, what if I do take this action? What's going to do for my life now? What's it going to do for my health, my fitness, my career, my finances? What's it going to do if I do take this action? So you're getting curious. And when you get curious about something, it softens the impact. It softens, even if you did do it and that happened, it wouldn't be a surprise so much now. You'll be more equipped to deal with it because you've already seen it already in the future, kind of thing. So the third thing is just to get curious about it like a child. What? Yeah, I mean, so first thing, find out what the fear is, acknowledge the fear. Second, appreciate it. Third, get curious like a baby and find out, ask yourself in a question in the future. And then the fourth thing to do is, after you've got curious and everything about it, you've got to reassure yourself that you can do it. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that you've already done things in the past. Like we said already, life is risky. From the day we were born to now, life was risky. There was risk attached to lots of things that we've done. So you've already experienced it. You've already had things that you're afraid of and you've gone past. So reassure yourself that you can do it again. Just reassure yourself. Think back to a time where, you were afraid first before you did it. I was like, I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. And then you bust past it. And then afterwards you felt like, yes. Reassure about them times. Then go and reassure yourself another time. And then another time. As much as you can think about. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 5. Who knows? But just reassure yourself with past experiences that you've had. And it doesn't matter how far you go back. Whether you was a baby, toddler, an adult, last month. It doesn't matter. Just go back to times where you've already experienced this fear. And you broke past it. And you broke past it. Reassure yourself that you can do it again. That's what it's doing. It's giving you that confidence to realize that, it's just an illusion. It's not real. I can do it again. So that's the fourth thing. Reassure yourself. Okay. And then, so hold on. We got recognize what it is. Recognize what you're doing. Appreciate it. Get curious. Reassure yourself. 4. 5, take action. You got to take action. You got to strike while the iron's hot. While the iron's hot, you got to take action. It doesn't matter if it's a little step. A step is better than inaction. A step, remember that. A step is better than doing nothing. Strike while the iron's hot. Do that step. Do that first thing. Take that action towards that thing that you fear. Go towards it. Take that first step. That's the number 5. And then the last thing, number 6. You know what they say, pat yourself in the back, celebrate. Celebrate the fact that you've taken action. And it's so important to celebrate because not only is celebrating, everyone loves to celebrate, everyone loves to smile, be happy, but also celebrate is reinforcing to your mind that, you've done a good thing. It's giving yourself a pat in the back, it's reinforcing your mind, I want to get that celebrate again. I want to get that pattern again. Who doesn't like to be told, well done? Yeah, but this time you're telling yourself, well done. You're not waiting for other people to tell you, well done. You know what? If we wait for everyone to keep telling us well done, then we're going to be waiting forever. Or you have to do something so major big for someone to tell you well done. No. Anytime I do something good in my mind and I enjoyed it and I've done something good, I pat myself in the back. You know who taught me this? Another famous speaker called Joseph McClendon III. He pat himself in the back all the time and smile in your face. It's so important to celebrate at the end whenever you make an achievement on any milestone in your life. So these are the 6 steps. I said 5, but I add that in the end. So these are the 6 steps in when you want to break past fear. The first thing is to acknowledge what it is. The second thing is to appreciate it's giving you an opportunity to go to that next level. The third thing is to get curious like a baby. Ask yourself more questions. Ask yourself in the questions, worst case, best case scenarios, all different types of questions, so it softens the impact of that feeling it gives you, it's giving you. And then the fourth thing is to reassure yourself. Reassure yourself from past experience that, yeah, you got this. You can do this. There ain't nothing stopping you. It's just an illusion. Reassure yourself that you can do this. And then the fifth thing is to take a step. Take an action, move towards. Some people say take massive action, but not everyone can take massive action. Some people can only take a little step, but a little step is better than inaction. A little step is better than nothing. So take that first step, make that move, strike it while the iron's hot. Take that first step. And then the sixth thing, the final thing, is give yourself a pat on the back. Celebrate, say well done to yourself. Say you rock, whatever it is you want to say, but give yourself a high five. Because you need to tell yourself that you have done well done. You've passed past that fear. It's a major thing. So guys, this is the concept around fear, and it applies to all types of fear. You just got to remember that it's not real. It's something that we build upon ourselves. And I know it's easier said than done because we all experience fear. And it's like this big monster, but we have to kill the monster while it's a baby before it grows and grows and grows. And then we never get to know what's on the other side of life for us. There's so much out there for us, and there's little things that fear stops us from doing. You're afraid of what the implications are going to be for your family. You're afraid of regretting what you do. You're afraid of losing what you have. You're afraid. And I'm not telling you always time to go for everything, because sometimes, sometimes there's things that you shouldn't go for. So it's not about just going for everything. But if it's something that your heart desires and you really want it, then you've really got to ask yourself first and foremost, how much do I want this? And if you really want it, then no amount of fear, don't let it stop you. Don't let no amount of fear stop you. And I want to close with a story that a mysticist, Sadhguru, he showed this story, and it kind of epitomizes fear really well. And the story goes like this. There was a young lady, she was sleeping in her room, and she was dreaming. She had a dream. And in her dream, she saw this hunk of a man, real strong man, at the door looking at her. And the man just stood at the door looking at her. And she was just, looking at her, admiring his body in the dream. And she's like, she's smiling. And he's looking at her, no expression, just looking at her, and she's smiling. And then the man starts to walk slowly towards her while she's sleeping. And she's a little bit curious still. Why is this man walking towards me? Not afraid or anything. Not alarmed, not afraid, but just curious. Why is this man walking towards me? And then the man approaches her closer. And then he starts to get within her personal space. And she's lying down now in bed. And for some reason, she just can't move. And she's lying down, and he's in her personal space. And then she starts to get a little bit anxious, a little bit worried. He starts to go closer and closer. And then she starts to get really worried. And then she says to him, "What will you do to me?" And he says to her, "Well, it's up to you. It's your dream." And that is what fear is. It's your dream. It's you make the fear to what it is, and you decide how much it's going to have an impact on you. And I tell that story because it is the truth. When that big bad wolf out there, you're making it badder than it feels and it seems. It ain't as bad as it looks once we take that step. And we all know that, even from the little bits of like jumping off of a little wall or whatever, wow, it looks so big, or jumping into the water, wow, it looks so. But on the other side, it's always that smile, I did it and it wasn't as bad as it seems. And you get to control it. You can sit in that bed and say, oh, he's going to do this with me. Or you can decide, no, it's my dream. I decide to wake up now and realize it's just an illusion. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this post, and I hope you can apply some of the things that I've spoken to you in this post. It is a bit longer than normal, but I hope you can apply some of them next time you embrace some fear. And I'm not saying your life is going to change, but just a little bit, one or two things, slowly, it gets better and it gets easier. Guys, I always say, and I'm going to say it again, you ain't going to stop me. This life is amazing, guys. You guys are amazing. We're all amazing, man. We're all in this together, okay? So have a fantastic day and stay blessed. Peace. I'm out.